A midlife crisis is more than just a cultural stereotype. It's a real psychological struggle that can surface between the ages of 40 and 60. Often triggered by aging, loss, or unmet expectations, it can actually lead individuals to question their identity, make impulsive choices, or abruptly abandon long term commitments. While not officially classified yet as a mental illness, the emotional and relational fallout is very real, especially for the spouses and families left behind. This podcast gives voice to those living through the aftermath, exposing the hidden pain, and seeking accountability, healing, and understanding. Thank you for joining us today on MLC Bomb Drop and Beyond. The stories and events discussed in this podcast are for informational and entertainment purposes only and should not be considered legal, medical, or professional advice. Any names, locations, or identifying details have been changed to protect privacy. Any similarities to actual persons, living or dead, or real events are purely coincidental. The information presented on this podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered as professional advice. Always consult with a qualified expert regarding any decisions related to your specific situation. The views expressed by guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the host or the podcast creators. Hello, Bomb Squad. Well, I guess today's the final day of Gratitude Week, and today we're going somewhere a little unexpected. And that is finding gratitude in the apology you never received. The apology you deserved, the apology they felt, and the apology their shame made impossible. Because today we're talking about the vanisher, the spouse who walked out psychologically, emotionally, physically, and left you at silence where a family once stood. Even somebody in replay or even a stay-at-home wallower. Elements of this apology are still going to apply, I think, because of their mental state. So this episode today is about the words they will never say to you or to your children, and why you can still find closure, power, and really even gratitude, I hope, without ever hearing them. Vanisher MLCers don't fail to apologize out of cruelty. They fail because the act of apologizing would detonate their fragile internal world. Shame that feels lethal. To apologize means admitting they became the villain in their own story that they created. Their ego simply can't survive that level of truth. There's the emotional regression. They function like scared adolescents. A runaway teen can hide, but they can't apologize. There's the cognitive collapse. They can't hold that I am a good person at the same time as saying, well, I caused catastrophic harm, because they know a good person doesn't go around causing catastrophic harm. It's complete disconnect with their identity. So they avoid the conversation entirely. They fear a real apology would open grief, guilt, responsibility. And they cannot handle any of those feelings right now, and possibly for a very long time. It's their fragile story. I had to leave. It was the only way. I'm finding myself. That would all fall apart if they admitted the truth. They don't apologize because they can't survive the admission. And a lot of people wonder, do vanishers want to apologize? Well, yeah, they do. In rare private moments, they do feel super sorry. And their remorse comes in flashes, lying awake at 3 a.m., looking at old photos, hearing your name, hearing your voice, seeing your handwriting, realizing what they lost, recognizing that they damaged their very own family. And for a split second, they feel the gravity of their choices. But the second that shame rises, they shove it back down and disappear further into the tunnel. And it's not that they're choosing not to apologize, it's that their psychological collapse makes it absolutely impossible. Yeah, you never got the apology, and not because you weren't worthy, but because they were not capable. So be grateful for the silence. This is where our gratitude week finale lands. You can be grateful for the apology you never received. You know why? Because their silence protected you from another layer of emotional harm. Their apology wouldn't be clear or whole, it would be fragmented, self serving, confusing. You were spared that chaos. Their mind just can't get it out. Their inability to apologize reveals their level of collapse. And knowing that, I hope gives you freedom from shame. It wasn't you, it was them. Their silence shows the difference between you and them. You have the emotional maturity they lack. You have the courage that they don't. You have the integrity that they abandoned. So be grateful you are not living in their mental prison. Their disappearance created space for your return to yourself. It forced you to rebuild your life from a place of truth, not illusion. The apology you never got is what taught you to validate yourself. Their silence became your clarity. It pushed you out of fantasy. It protected you from being pulled back into their collapse. I hope it allowed you to see the entire picture clearly. Their lack of apology is evidence of their emotional brokenness, not your unworthiness. And the real closure, a conversation you don't need. And the real closure is a conversation you don't need them for. Because here's the truth. You don't need their apology because you already know the truth behind it. You know they ran from themselves. They couldn't face what they'd done. They lacked the emotional strength to repair anything. Their absence is about their collapse, not your value. Their silence is their confession. You didn't get the apology, but you got the truth. And that truth is everything. They truly felt you deserved better than them. They didn't believe in themselves. They don't believe in themselves. And there came a point in their head where they felt they had to leave you because you weren't going to leave them. And it would just bring you down. And they loved you so much, they couldn't bear that. And here's an apology your kids deserved, whether they are 5, 15, 25, or 45. If your MLC spouse, if their father or mother had the courage to apologize to your kids, this is what they'd say. I'm sorry I wasn't there for you. I'm sorry I left you without an explanation, without stability, without answers. You didn't deserve to lose a father or a mother just because I lost myself. You were not the reason I disappeared. You were not the issue. You were not the burden. You weren't too much and you weren't too little. I was absolutely overwhelmed by my own pain, and I didn't know how to be a parent anymore. I didn't know how to show up when I couldn't stand who I was. I'm so sorry I made you question your own worth. I'm so sorry you wondered what you did wrong. I'm so sorry I let you believe my distance was your fault. It wasn't. It was my fault. I am so sorry. You deserved a steady parent. You got a shadow. You deserved presence, and you got absence. You deserved to feel safe, and I made you feel disposable. I'm so sorry you had to grow up faster because I emotionally checked out. I'm so sorry your memories are now stamped with confusion instead of comfort. I want you to know I never stopped loving you, but I stopped loving myself. And when I lost myself, I lost you too. You deserve so much more than the version of me that could not stay. And why can they not apologize to their kids, especially adult children? It's because the shame becomes absolutely paralyzing. It exposes their deepest failure. Leaving a spouse is one thing, but abandoning and emotionally neglecting your own child, that is a primal betrayal. Admitting it means admitting they broke the most sacred role they ever had. They cannot face that truth. It destroys their their idea of them being a good person, that whole identity. To apologize to their children means confronting the fact that they weren't a good mom or dad. It confronts the fact that they personally caused lifelong harm to their children, and their kids are now in pain because of them. Their ego cannot survive that level of accountability. They fear being rejected by their children because they know they didn't show up, they weren't present, and they failed them. Admitting all of that risks the child saying to them, "Where were you when I needed you?" And, they can't tolerate that confrontation. It requires emotional presence that they don't have. Children, even adult children, expect honesty, stability, emotional accountability, consistency. They And you know what, you guys? A vanisher cannot deliver any of those things. They know it, so they stay away. Apologizing to the kids means facing the spouse indirectly. They fear that apologizing to the children opens the door to clarifying the truth, admitting they lied, revealing the affair partner, exposing their collapse, and acknowledging the whole marriage fallout, because their entire false narrative would then unravel. They don't want to see the pain in their kids' eyes because that pain reflects them. And we know they cannot handle their own reflection right now. And do they want to apologize to their kids? Absolutely yes. But they want it in the same way a drowning person wants to swim, but can't get their head above water long enough to even try. They want reconciliation without accountability. They want connection without shame. They want forgiveness without confession. They want to repair, but only in ways that don't require facing their damage. Their inability to apologize is not indifference, you guys. It's absolute emotional paralysis. Sadly, someone in MLC ran from themselves. They couldn't face what they'd done. They lacked the emotional strength to repair anything. Their absence is about their collapse, not your value. Their silence is their confession. You didn't get the apology, but you got the truth. And Bomb Squad, for our spouses out there, this is the apology you should have received. This is the apology that exists inside of them but cannot be spoken. I'm sorry I disappeared. I wasn't running from you. I was running from myself. I couldn't face what I had become, and I couldn't bear you seeing it. You didn't deserve the silence, the abandonment, or the sudden cruelty. You gave me decades of love, and I repaid it with vanishing. I broke something in you because something was already broken in me. I'm so sorry I made you question your worth. I'm so sorry I left you with the pieces of a life that I shattered. I want you to know I didn't leave because you were unlovable. I left because I couldn't tolerate my own self-hatred. You were the mirror I couldn't look into anymore. And instead of facing my pain, I chose the coward's path. I disappeared. I am so sorry. You deserved a real partner. You got a ghost. You guys, that is the truest apology a vanisher would give if they had the emotional capacity and the self-awareness to say the words. If a vanisher could apologize, it would have sounded like that. I didn't leave because of you. I left because I couldn't stand myself. That is so telling, but they can't say it. Not because they don't feel sorry, but because the shame is so absolutely suffocating that apologizing would destroy the fragile psychological house they're living in. Vanisher MLCers aren't avoiding their spouse. They're avoiding accountability, identity, and pain. They disappear because the only self they can face right now is the one that's not connected to the damage they caused. So, you guys, be grateful that you can apologize. Be grateful that you can face the truth. Be grateful that you can sit with pain. You can name it and you can heal. Be grateful that you did not lose yourself in the tunnel. And most of all, be grateful that your strength didn't vanish just because they did. You are your own closure. You are your own mirror. You are your own return. This week, you guys, we have honored the pain, the strength, the survival, and the rising. And today, we end Gratitude Week with this. The apology you or your kids never received, it was never a reflection of your worth. It was only their inability. You all deserve better. And now you become better. I hope you all had a great holiday week, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Hey, some resources that are available for you guys are thewifeexpert.com. That's Lori McDermott over there at thewifeexpert.com. She also has a new app out. There's tons of videos that can give you all kinds of information on no matter where you are on your MLC journey or trying to reconcile with your spouse. So check out thewifeexpert.com. And if you're not sure if your spouse or yourself is in maybe approaching or in a midlife crisis, be sure to check out Kenda Root's quiz at midlifecrisismarriageadvocate.com. Again, that's a midlifecrisismarriageadvocate.com. That's a quick little 2-minute quiz. It's free. So check that out as well. We have a ton of resources out there for you guys. So check them out. Thanks. You guys, forward moving spouses, you are not alone. Left behind spouses, you are not alone. Those in crisis, you are certainly not alone. This is just crazy how epidemic this has become. I have a waiting list now of people from around the world that I'm trying to get to. And if you've been through a midlife crisis or been impacted by someone else's and you want to share your story, I'd love to hear from you. Hang in there, you guys. I will get to all of you. Please reach out to me at mlcbombdrop@gmail.com and visit us on Facebook and Instagram, MLC Bomb Drop. And just remember, your voice matters. Your story could be the one that helps someone else feel seen. It could help someone else feel heard. And you know, it will help somebody else feel understood. You are not alone, no matter where you are in your journey. If the bomb was just dropped, the earthquake just happened, if you are 7 or 8 years in and you're coming out of starting to wake up and awaken to this, you are not alone. It's sad that this is epidemic, but we're here to provide support. So until next time, take care and live authentically each and every day. Thanks again, you guys.